Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping right into the absolute cutting edge of the pharmaceutical world. We're talking about manufacturing excellence.
Right. And this is a space where digital transformation isn't some, a nice to have buzzword. It's an operational imperative.
It has to happen. It's meeting the tough realities of, well, global supply chain demand, intense regulatory scrutiny, and of course cost.
That tension really defines the industry right now. I mean, it's not just about making medicine anymore. It's about reducing risk. Our sources show just how massive the financial pressure is.
It's staggering.
Every single minute of unplanned downtime in a production facility can cost a company hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Every minute.
Every minute. So the old playbook, the legacy, batch-centric plant, it was designed for a different era.
For high volume, predictable market.
Exactly, and it just can't compete when speed and hyper-precision are what's mandatory today.
So the industry has to adapt. And the answer, it seems, is what everyone's calling Pharma 4.0. And we're going beyond just, incremental upgrades here. This is a fundamental redesign. The goal is to create these intelligent, self-optimizing ecosystems. So our mission today is to unpack the 7 critical transformations, the necessary steps that really underpin this huge shift.
And this whole movement is gaining serious regulatory traction. It's important to point out this isn't just companies chasing efficiency on their own.
The FDA is involved.
The U.S. FDA is actively promoting and encouraging advanced techniques, especially continuous manufacturing. And, the results from the early adopters, they're undeniable.
What are they seeing?
They're seeing dramatic cuts in cycle times. Inventory buffers are shrinking because product release is so much faster. And maybe the most surprising thing, quality deviations are actually falling.
Because the controls are happening in real time.
Exactly. It's moving from looking backward at checks to monitoring things as they happen.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's start with the foundational shift, which has to be the biggest operational change of them all. This move away from the traditional, highly regulated batch model.
It is the single most important transformation. Think about traditional manufacturing. You have tanks, mixers, testing labs.
Right, and everything stops.
Everything stops. You wait for one step to finish before you can move the entire batch to the next station.
So inefficient.
Continuous manufacturing just throws that whole concept out. It combines all the unit operations, mixing, blending, compression into one single, uninterrupted flow.
So you go from these separate stages where you've got product just sitting around
Just waiting.
to a true pipeline. What does that do for logistics, for the bottom line?
It fundamentally reshapes the entire supply chain. Because the process is uninterrupted and it can run 24/7, you gain this massive operational capability.
No more waiting for the next shift to come in.
Nope. We're talking about reducing lead times from, say, several weeks down to just a few days. And the financial benefits are striking. We're looking at expected reductions of 40 to 50% in variable manufacturing costs compared to that old batch approach.
And that's mostly because you're not warehousing stuff for weeks on end.
Precisely. You minimize all that inventory holding time.
That is game-changing efficiency. But I have to assume this isn't just about replacing a few mixing bowls with a long tube. This sounds like a complete overhaul of process and people, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It is a complete re-engineering. You have to totally rethink material handling and especially quality assurance.
Right, because you're not testing a static batch anymore.
You're monitoring a constantly moving stream of product. And on the people side, this demands specialized process engineers. You need new control room operators who are trained not just in, basic engineering, but specifically in continuous process monitoring and control loops.
So their skills shift from waiting and checking
To predicting and intervening. It's a huge mental shift.
Okay, so shifting from the physical process to the digital layer. I mean, the infrastructure must have to change even more dramatically to support this constant flowing data stream. We have to talk about digitalizing the assets.
Right. If you have a continuous flow, you need continuous visibility. And this is where things like cyber-physical production systems and digital twins come into play.
Digital twins, explain that.
Okay.
It's basically a virtual replica of the factory.
A virtual replica of your equipment, your raw materials, your entire manufacturing process, yes.
So why build a virtual factory when you already have the physical one? What's the real value there?
Prediction and simulation. That's the key. You can run what-if scenarios instantly.
Like what?
Like, what if we change the temperature or the pressure? Or what if this batch of raw material has a slight variation? You can test all of that virtually without risking a multi-million-dollar batch failure on the real shop floor.
That makes perfect sense for risk mitigation.
It's also how they accelerate tech transfer. Moving a process from R&D to a full production line becomes much, much faster.
And the investment signals here are pretty clear about where the industry is heading.
Oh, they are. Our sources show that only about 17% of European pharma plants have a full digital twin today.
That seems low.
It is, but that number is set to explode. 65% plan to invest within the next 12 months.
Wow.
And biopharma studies show that once these twins are up and running, they can reduce unplanned downtime by up to 47%. That translates into millions in annual savings.
Okay, if the payoff is preventing half of all unplanned downtime, that sounds like a required investment, not an optional one. But the number in the source material, the total investment, it's around $9.7 million over 2 years for the software, the IoT, the people. That figure sounds, well, insurmountable for a mid-sized company. Are they just being left behind?
That's a crucial point. And yeah, the upfront cost is high, but you have to view it against the cost of failure. For a mid-sized company, preventing a single catastrophic quality deviation, something that leads to a recall or a regulatory warning letter, that can justify the entire $9.7 billion investment right there.
So they're taking a modular approach, not trying to build the whole thing at once.
Exactly. The sources suggest they're digitizing the most critical parts of the line first, where the failure risk is highest.
Okay, so you've got this continuous process generating data, you have the digital twin running simulations, and you've got IoT sensors reporting on everything. All that data needs that central brain we talked about. And that leads us to the manufacturing execution system, or MES.
Correct. The MES and the shop floor IoT layers. That's the central intelligence hub. It's the traffic controller for all of that information.
And how is that different from older systems like SCADA?
Older systems might track inventory or equipment status, but a Pharma 4.0 ready MES is different. It integrates sensors, robotics, and ERP data in real time. It creates a single source of truth that can actually drive autonomous decisions.
It's essentially the operating system for the entire plant.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the data it spits out lets you measure performance with incredible accuracy, using metrics like overall equipment effectiveness or OEE.
For the listener who isn't familiar, OEE combines equipment availability, performance, and quality into one score, right?
Right. And plants implementing these new MES platforms are reporting huge gains. We're talking 20 to 50% improvements across OEE, cycle time, and material usage. But, and this is a big but, here's the hard reality we have to address. Technology is only half of the equation. We've seen so many of these ambitious digital factory plans just stall.
And not because the software failed.
Not at all. It's because the organization, the people, just weren't ready to absorb the change.
So what are the top obstacles? What does the research say is preventing these things from succeeding?
The surveys consistently point to 3 major roadblocks. First, persistent data silos. Second, significant skills gaps in the workforce. And the third one, the culture is the most complex. It's a deeply change-averse culture.
That change-averse culture point really hits hard, especially in an industry that's built on consistency and validation. For 50 years, the motto has basically been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and for God's sakes, don't change anything the FDA approved.
Exactly. And now you're asking people to move from a reactive mindset, waiting for the annual audit or the end-of-batch quality check,
to a proactive, predictive, data-driven approach.
It is a massive psychological hurdle. Imagine you're a QA manager. Your entire career has been built on signing off on physical batch records. You might resist automation because it conflicts with decades of established audited practice. You're thinking, how can I trust a sensor and an algorithm more than a human validation?
The people dimension requires a total cultural transformation.
It does.
So what does this new digitally literate plant manager look like?
Well, they need to be fluent in data interpretation. They have to be able to look at complex, real-time data streams and make confident decisions on the fly instead of waiting for a committee meeting.
So upskilling programs are critical.
Absolutely. And these programs need to cover the tech skills, like cloud-based MES management, but they also have to focus heavily on cybersecurity awareness.
Of course. Because if everything is interconnected, the risk of an external attack just skyrockets.
Precisely. The industry is moving toward what's called a zero-trust network architecture.
And for the listener, that basically means you assume every user, every device, every piece of data is a potential threat until it's rigorously verified.
It's a necessary layer of protection when your whole production line is connected to the internet and constantly optimizing itself.
All right, now that we understand the process flow and the digital foundation, let's look at how this data translates directly into huge wins. This is where the investment really starts to pay off in maintenance and in quality control. Let's start with predictive maintenance, or PDM.
This is a classic example of data delivering incredible value. PDM is the shift where equipment upkeep moves completely from the calendar to the data stream.
So instead of changing a pump's bearing every 6 months whether it needs it or not,
You use AI and sophisticated vibration sensors to foresee precisely when that bearing is about to fail.
and the return on investment numbers here are legendary.
They are. Predictive maintenance can reduce unplanned downtime by 60%. And when you think about what a single unplanned halt costs, studies show PDM can deliver a 10 times payback in the first year alone, just by avoiding one or two major incidents.
So no more reactive firefighting for the plant manager.
None. Operationally, you're looking at an expected 95% reduction in unexpected equipment failures and a 25 to 30% cut in maintenance costs overall because you only intervene when it's necessary.
Okay, that handles the equipment. Now let's move to quality, the sacred cow of pharma. We touched on the pain point earlier. The old model meant waiting days, sometimes weeks, for batch testing to release a product. The new model relies on something called process analytical technology, or PIT.
PIT is the integration of analytical instruments right into the production line itself. So think of tools like near-infrared spectroscopy.
Which uses light to analyze chemical composition.
Right. It's monitoring critical quality attributes continuously as the drug is actually being made.
So instead of stopping the line, pulling a sample, sending it to the lab, and waiting.
The lab results are right there on the production line, live.
That's a great analogy. So instead of baking a cake and having to wait for it to cool to check the texture,
You have a sensor checking the moisture and density live inside the oven. And the game changer this enables is the move toward real-time release protocols.
meaning the drug is cleared for distribution almost as soon as it comes off the line.
Exactly. This eliminates those huge batch testing delays. It's moving toward continuous compliance. And companies using PAT systems report a 60 to 140% return on investment just from reduced batch review time. And at the same time, they're enhancing regulatory confidence.
Because the quality proof is continuous, not just a snapshot from the past.
Yes.
We've covered the flow, the data, the intelligence. Let's transition to the physical shop floor and the last two challenges: advanced automation and flexible manufacturing. How are companies transforming their physical production spaces?
The factory floor is becoming more and more populated with robotics. We're seeing heavy industrial robots for large-scale material handling, but also collaborative robots, or cobots, that work right alongside human operators for precision tasks.
Like handling delicate samples or packaging.
Right. Compression, final packaging, all of that.
And what does that deliver beyond just, being faster?
Consistency.
Yeah.
And unrelenting production capability. Automation enables true 247 production, leading to a 40 to 60% increase in throughput. Robotic automation can process over 200 units a minute. And crucially, automated quality control systems can achieve 99.9% accuracy.
Which virtually eliminates the human errors that creep into those highly repetitive, fatiguing tasks.
It does.
That improved throughput has to be matched by flexibility, right? Especially as the market shifts toward personalized or small batch therapies that need rapid changeovers.
It absolutely does. The future facility can't be a monolith. Flexibility requires modular design, so easy-to-move equipment blocks, standardized interfaces, and a much greater use of single-use technologies like disposable mixers or bags.
And this modular approach is what lets them reconfigure lines quickly for different products.
Exactly. For different product formats or smaller personalized runs, it's vital.
Can we actually measure that agility gain? How much faster can they swap out a product line?
Well, we can. The implementation of these flexible modular systems results in a pretty significant 40% reduction in production change over time.
And that enhanced ability to respond to market demand or a sudden public health crisis, that's a major strategic advantage.
Huge.
This has been a really exhaustive look at these 7 key pillars. So let's wrap this up with the big picture. What happens when a company successfully tackles all of these challenges at once, from continuous flow and digital twins to predictive quality and automation? We said the investment is around $91.2 million over a 2 to 3 year period. How does a project that massive survive short-term investor pressures?
It survives because the return isn't just operational, it's systemic. That 91.2 million buys you not only efficiency but also massive risk mitigation. The payoff is truly transformative. You're unlocking up to 30% lower cost of goods compared to older facilities.
50% faster response times to market shifts.
And arguably the most valuable piece, you gain enhanced regulatory confidence. The quality system is baked in, not audited afterward.
This has been a monumental deep dive into the shift required across people, process, and technology in pharma manufacturing. It's a compelling story of a dual benefit cost leadership that's achieved through superior quality control, which, at the end of the day, means better and faster medicine for all of us.
And the key takeaway for you, the listener, if you're facing this transition in your organization, is to really stress the systematic approach. You can't just cherry pick technologies. This requires a rigorous, phased implementation plan that maintains an intense focus on cross-functional integration. IT, operations, and quality assurance. They have to become one unified team.
I think the most fascinating implication here, based on all the source material, is that the ultimate goal of Pharma 4.0 isn't just efficiency. It's genuine autonomous control, where AI and sensors are continuously optimizing the process without much human intervention. And that raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. What happens to the organizational role of compliance when quality checks, release protocols, even maintenance scheduling are all automated and managed by predictive systems? Does regulatory affairs transform from being a historical documenter and reviewer into an active, real-time system validator? Think about what that shift means for the entire governance model of a company.